Megan Petty Ford as we have a special presentation this morning about neurodivergence, or as the cool kids are calling it, spicy brains. First, let's give Megan a round of applause for even coming up here. Now, I asked Megan maybe a couple of months ago to teach us as a former school teacher. As I was telling the group this morning in prayer, you are often current on language about how students are identified and their particular challenges. And what I want for our congregation is for us to be current. I want us to know what the language is to use around neurodivergence, what that even means, how we parent, how we pastor, how we as a community come around those who are called to that particular work. And so this morning, Megan is going to lead us. She is our resident expert, and it's not just because she is a parent of a child who is neurodivergent, but also because if you follow Megan on social media, she will drop gems, big gems often, gems not just from herself, but of leading experts. And so I know this is a community she's paying attention to, she's reading about, she's learning about, and so I'm really excited for her to share that information with us this morning. And so let's pray for her as she comes forward. Let's pray. Most gracious God, I ask you, Lord, that now you empower Megan to lead us, to teach us. And Lord, will you calm her nerves and allow all of it to flow together? Lord, as she is being vulnerable and sharing with us a part of her life that she's had to learn by jumping into the deep end of the pool, God, I pray, Lord, that in this moment there is a bit of reward, that the hard times, the days where no one else sees her, it seems worth it, not because of us, but because of who you've called her to be and who you've allowed her to parent, and this community you've now called her to be a part of. So may we be good students this morning. Will you bless our teacher? Bless this time for the sake of the kingdom. In the name of Jesus Christ, we all say together, amen. At this time, I invite you forward.
Thank you. Thank you. That was more than I expected as an introduction. I wouldn't call myself an expert, and I think if you ask any parent of a neurodivergent child, they would probably laugh and say, what? Because we are figuring things out just like any other parent. I'm excited to speak to you guys this morning. This is obviously something near and dear to my heart. My family and I have been coming to Emmanuel for about 1.5 years now. We're still learning names and faces, but I'm so glad that when I look out, I can call many of you dear friends now. And I just want to say thank you for welcoming us, me and mine. And I don't think I have to say this, but this church is special. We got something here, and y'all know it. I know it, and I'm just so excited to be a part of that. And if you're new here, I hope that Emmanuel becomes the place for you. I can tell you from firsthand experience, the people here love Jesus and they love one another. So, yeah. My name is Megan. I'm married to a really amazing man named John. He's pretty awesome, and we've been married for 17 years now. We have 3 kids. Most of you know them. Elijah, who's 11, Ellie, who's 10, and our youngest, Coda, who is 7. And our family is neurodivergent. Among the 5 of us, we have official diagnoses of autism, ADHD, anxiety disorder, and Tourette's syndrome. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail of who's and what's, and because a lot of it is not my story to tell personally, but I will share a little bit about our youngest child today, because for most of our family, we can mask pretty well, but for our little one, he is a free spirit and has a spicy brain, and he is like who I want to be when I grow up. Does not care. He is going to be himself. And some of you have had the fun privilege of meeting him or seeing him, and hopefully you will have many more opportunities in the future. You'll be better for it. The church will be better for it. I know I'm better for it. And yeah, so a little bit about Coda. When he was 3, he was diagnosed as autistic. He would be known as someone who needs high supports. He has a language delay, apraxia of speech, which means that he cannot get the words from here to here. Up here, he can understand everything that's going on around him, but he cannot, tell you his favorite color. He cannot have a conversation with you. But he has little ways of letting us know exactly what he understands and he's thinking. We also suspect he may have a dyspraxia, which is similar, but it deals with the body. He may be wanting to go to the kitchen, but his body will take him to the bathroom or to his bedroom. You can imagine how frustrating that can be when your brain, you know where you want to go, but your body refuses to take you there or do certain things. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a little bit. But before I go any further, I want to mention that I'm also going to talk about the disabled community too, because it's hard a lot of times to separate neurodivergence and disability, just because there can be co-occurring diagnoses or accommodations and supports that need to be made, vice versa. They kind of overlap a little bit. So you'll hear me talk about the disabled community and the neurodivergent community, and just know that those things kind of go hand in hand. I'm also going to be using what's called identity first language instead of person first language this morning. And the reason and what that is identity first is saying, instead of saying a person with autism, it's autistic person. A person with a disability, disabled person. And that is only out of respect for the majority of those communities. Not everyone prefers that. It's not a monolith. If you meet someone and they, correct you, just honor what they want. But out of respect for the majority, that's how I'll be speaking this morning. Just to kind of put that out there. All right, so let's take a couple of steps back. If you could go to the next slide. What is neurodivergence? By now, you've probably figured out that it has something to do with the brain, and you'd be correct. It is the variations of how a person's brain processes information with the world, deviating from what is considered neurotypical. You can see from the graphic up here, maybe in the back it might be a little hard, but you can see some of the diagnoses that fall under the neurodivergence category. It isn't exhaustive, but you can see that there's a lot. And so chances are you or someone you know is neurodivergent. And as we have learned over the course of the last 25, 30 years, more about the human brain, and we've added language to exhibiting traits and characteristics, we've been able to paint a better picture of brain differences. A century ago, most of these would have likely been lumped into more unsavory and dehumanizing terms or categories. If you have time, you can go back and kind of look at the history of disabilities and mental health. It's daunting at best, pretty evil at worst. We've come a long way, but there's still a long way to go. So a person who is neurodivergent may process information or input differently, like sensory differences, sight, sounds, tastes may be overwhelming or underwhelming. Socially, a person may take things very literally. They don't pick up on social cues like neurotypical people do. It may involve special interests or info dumping. They also focus in unique ways. Some may be very, very interested in just like a certain topic or activity, and it's hard to break focus from that. They can communicate and interact differently. You may have, my son Coda, we refer to him as being non-conversational or unreliably speaking. He can say words and he can say phrases, but it may not always be exactly what he wants. He may say, do you like ice cream? But he's not really asking you, do you like ice cream? He is just saying something, a script that he finds comfort in, or he's trying to engage, most likely saying, hey, how are you? Let's talk. There are also non-speaking individuals who can use different tools. We have, thanks to technology, AAC devices. You've probably seen people with tablets that help aid in communicating. CODA has that as well, and we use that. All communication is valid, whether it's signing, body language, pointing, pulling you somewhere, that's communication and that is valid. So these differences can affect everyday life, learning, relationships, and work, but they can also bring creative perspectives, innovative problem-solving skills, unique ways of thinking. And I think if you spend some time with someone who is neurodivergent, you get that pretty quickly. All right, next slide, please. Thanks. I thought I'd include some old throwbacks of my kids because you guys know them as a little bit older now, and I see your littles running around all the time, and I get so excited because it just reminds me of when they were that size. This is Elijah at the age of 2, and I didn't want to use any stock photos, so you guys are just going to get a good treat this morning of seeing my kids. So I want to quickly go over a few terms that you might hear when it comes to autism or other neurodivergent types, ADHD, any of sensory disorders, anything that we saw on the last slide. So first of all, you'll hear a lot of times dysregulated. People who have sensory issues can become quickly dysregulated, which means your brain and body aren't in a calm, focused state where learning can happen. A state of imbalance, caught in a cycle of heightened anxiety, usually caused by mounting situations with high demands. We all can be dysregulated at times. We feel overwhelmed, especially if you're a parent, you know. And so, but a lot of times with our son who does have sensory differences, certain smells can just be overwhelming. Lights can be overwhelming. Sound can be overwhelming. That's why having some noise reducing headphones can help a lot of times. It allows us to go to crowded places or loud places. It muffles everything that can feel so overwhelming. And to go along with that, we have co-regulation. And this is, again, parents will know, this is the process where one person's emotional state influences another's, particularly in helping individuals manage their emotions and behaviors. Caregivers are often, throughout their day, co-regulating, helping share our calm. And it's a hard thing to do because you have to, it's kind of like the illustration of putting your oxygen mask on in a plane before you help your neighbor. You've got to be able to calm your nervous system before you help another because they pick up on, that fear. And your kids, you know that. If they see you stress, that's going to stress them out. Ableism, that's a term that I'm sure many of us have heard. It just means prejudice and discrimination aimed at disabled people, often with patronizing desire to cure their disability and make them normal. Ableism either is subtle or directly portrays individuals who are being defined by their disabilities as inherently inferior to non-disabled people. There's a really good book that is on my list that I'm going to share at the end, but by Dr. Lamar Hardwick. He is a Black autistic pastor in Georgia, and he writes a good deal about the crossover of ableism and racism, and it is fascinating because there is an intersect there. And so I definitely recommend checking that out and reading that book. Eloping, to run away from caregivers or safe locations. This can be voluntary or involuntary. Again, summer's coming. For young ones who elope, drowning is one of the biggest causes of death among the young autistic community. Thankfully, like I say, we've come a long way. There's still more to go. There are adaptive swimming lessons now, which is amazing. Spartanburg, many places in Spartanburg offer them. Eloping is something that can be very scary. People that are prominent to elope need a one-on-one person always on. And so I'm very thankful for gated playgrounds and places where there are locks and things like that. But if you work in the school setting, you know all this. Masking. We all do this. This refers to the act of concealing or suppressing one's true self to fit in or avoid negative judgment, particularly prevalent among individuals with neurodevelopmental differences like autism or ADHD. This is hiding who you really are to fit in, and this can be exhausting and over time can lead to stress, anxiety, and or depression. We all mask, like we all know certain social situations and we adjust to that. But if you have, and we're going to talk about this next word, stimming. If stimming, flapping of hands, rocking back and forth, repeating verbal sounds, if that calms you and is a way of regulating your nervous system and you are in a social setting where that's not acceptable, and trying to mask that can be so exhausting physically and mentally. And so going on to, that's just when stimming is when someone uses movement or sound to help their body feel good or calm. People do this for lots of reasons, like feeling, they do it to calm themselves, to get more focus, to feel safe. It's a natural way to regulate the body and brain, and as long as it doesn't present any safety concern for the person doing it or those around them, let them stim. Shake your hands out. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. In the past, that was kind of, in some therapies, they were taught to not do that, and that just caused even more dysregulation. So if you see someone shaking, and we do this too, clicking a pen in class or bouncing your knees, or, you know, these are just movements our body does to kind of calm our nervous systems. Echolalia. This is a fun one. It can be so fun. This is when a child or an individual repeats something that was said. There's immediate echolalia. My little one does this a lot. We'll say, "Hey, Coda." He'll say, "Hey, Coda." This is a natural way to learn language. If you meet someone who just repeats, just know that this is their way of communicating. You can even model what maybe they would say from their perspective. So with Coda, as he's learning language and wanting to socialize more, we go up to a friend at the park. The friend says, "Hey, what's your name?" And then I'll model, "I'm Coda. What's your name?" And so that it's a natural way to learn language. There's also delayed echolalia, which is something that a child or individual can pick up from a favorite song, TV show. I like to say, like, we do this too. Like, you'll be talking to someone and a movie quote will come in your head and you'll just say it. You know, it's a way to communicate. And those are valid. That's valid. Non-speaking, unreliable speaking, non-conversational. We kind of went over that. AAC, augmentative, alternative communication devices, tablets, letterboards, picture symbols, sign language, all are valid ways of communication. And that is just, those ways are just offering accessibility, accommodations, and support. Sensory differences. I hit on this a little bit. We have hypersensitivity. It can be, those are overwhelming. Hyposensitivity, underwhelming. This is the concern for people like who don't experience pain like we do. Especially if you have like a non-speaking person that you're taking care of and they, their tolerance for pain is higher. It is, you're playing detective. Like if they're, a lot of times their dysregulation is also communication telling you something is wrong. So if you're ever out in Walmart and you see someone who is just obviously having a hard time, you know, our instinct is like to pass judgment or something like that. But just keep in mind that this person could just, you know, really just be having a lot going on underneath. And sensory seekers, which is what I have at home. And let me tell you, they are so, you may have sensory seekers in your house. I have a kid who can jump on the trampoline for 2 hours, then immediately go ride their bike, and then go skating, and does not tire out. They need that sensory input constantly. It's like a bucket with holes that you're pouring water in. It's just leaking out. And it can get, wintertime can get hard because it's cold and there's nowhere for them to go. But we figure it out inside. But that is just a way to they just are filling up that sensory need. And then we have meltdowns, and I know you've heard the term meltdown before. This is different than a tantrum. I want to make that clear. It's an intense response to an overwhelming situation, usually involves sensory overload and emotional distress. Meltdowns are when the threshold has been reached. Like there's been so much dysregulation, no way to co-regulate or to calm their nervous system. In situations like that, that person is not in control. Like they have reached this moment where their bodies are just shutting down, basically. Their mind, they have no control. In those situations, it can be very stressful and scary, especially for individuals who self-harm. You got to think about what they could be experiencing that would cause them to want to like the physical pain is better than what they're feeling throughout their body. In those moments, you want to co-regulate, stay calm, move them to a place, if they're not already in a place like where they have space, keep any objects away, and just less is more when it comes to like talking. A lot of times in these situations, it's you're okay, I'm here. You're okay, I'm here. You're going to get through this. And I'm sharing this because I have a son who church can be overwhelming at times. The demands, the people, the noises, the smells. And so if there's ever a time where that happens, like that's burden that a parent carries or a caregiver carries is like what's going to happen out in public. And for Emmanuel to be a place where someone can have experience this, but then also know this is a safe place for me. I'm still going to be loved. I'm still going to be looked at with dignity. And as a parent, that's been like one of my number one jobs is like keeping that dignity intact. All right, next slide. And I am trying, Cameron. I know I'm going so long. Okay. So some stats for you real quick. Again, a sweet picture of my kiddos. And this is probably, I probably only have a handful where all three of them are still and looking at the camera. So that's why this one's my favorite. All right, 61 million people in America live with a disability. That means 1 in 4 adults are disabled in some capacity. And over 1 billion people, 15% of the world's population lives with some form of disability. It's the same statistic for neurodivergence, the neurodivergent community as well. Northwestern University released and said 15 to 20% of the people are also neurodivergent. And you can understand that there's like overlap there. So the estimates that are 80 to 85% of churches don't have any level of special needs ministry. This comes from Dr. Hardwick's book, Disability and the Church. I want to say that number is probably a little bit better because in the last 10 years with social media and awareness, things have improved. But there's still a long way to go. And I think smaller churches struggle with this the most just because of having people on hand to assist families. But it's not impossible. And only 5 to 10% of the world's disabled are effectively reached with the gospel, making the disability community one of the largest unreached groups in the world. And I truly believe that this is because a lot of times either families don't know, there's not enough visual visibility of churches who do support and have supports for families, or it's just incredibly hard how we have the church structured. And bigger mega churches do have more to offer, and I think it is because of numbers. But what I love about the churches who are liturgical, like Emmanuel, is that we have a rhythm, we have a church calendar, we have predictability, and man, neurodivergent people thrive in that. To be able to know what to expect and to have that repeated rhythm every year. So for that, I just see so much there. Next slide, if you don't mind. Why all of this matters. Accommodating makes the gospel accessible. Accommodating means accessibility to the gospel in the community for families. It means belonging and fellowship. It means support. It means a better body of believers. we all benefit when we accommodate for those who have support needs. And there are families who are yearning to be a part of a church like Emmanuel. I was one of them. And we just have to let them know that we are here, that we see them, that we love them, that we want them, all the part of them, and that they belong. And this is something you guys are a natural at. And I'm going to give you a couple examples. Vanessa. If you know Vanessa, is Vanessa here this morning? No. Okay, man. Vanessa, you walk through the door and she meets you with a smile and a hug, even if it's the first time that she has met you. We have been coming here to Emmanuel for maybe a couple of months, and she knows this story. I've told her a bunch. So John, my husband, he stays at home a lot with Coda, so me and Ellie and Elijah can come in, and we're working on slowly integrating Coda to the rhythms of church because, this is new for us as a family, so it takes time. But one thing that happened was, I believe it was it was so cold, and there was hot chocolate out in the coffee station, and they were so excited that y'all had hot chocolate, and so they got used to coming and having it. Well, one Sunday we came in, there was no hot chocolate, and they were like, oh man, Vanessa saw it, and she's like, I will make sure you babies have hot chocolate the next Sunday. Well, we come the next Sunday. I had forgotten all about it. I'm just trying to meet people and just get to know everybody. And they immediately go to the station. There's hot chocolate, and they just lit up. And Vanessa's like, "Yeah, I left home. I had forgotten, but I stopped by the store because those babies were going to get hot chocolate." And so, do you know that's all they talked about on the way home? And I'm going to tell you why it's so important. I just teared up because siblings of kids who have high supports, those siblings sacrifice so much. Even in families where we make an intentional effort to have one-on-one time and give them what they need, there's still sacrifice, and they are often overlooked. And there are many times we've had to leave events before they wanted to, but they did because that's how we could support their brother. And when a church can see those siblings and just pour into them, it means so much to the parents. You don't have to build a sensory room. You don't have to do all this bells and whistles. It really does start with you, just educating, allowing me to come up here. Secondly, Anna, man, the Christmas cantata. Let me tell you the gift that you gave me that you probably don't know that you gave me. I have tons of pictures and videos of my older two in plays, concerts, dances. I have none of Coda. Every time I would go and see them perform, in my mind I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever see Coda on a stage or with a group of kids or singing. I don't know if I'll ever get pictures. And we took a leap on that night to bring Coda. He had not practiced with the kids. He wanted to go up with his sister. I was like, Anna's okay. That's fine. That boy came up here and sang and danced and performed with the kids of Emmanuel. And I got pictures. And that is something I never, ever thought I would get. And so I went home that night just in tears. I'm like, this is the best Christmas I've ever had. This is just amazing. And so you're already doing it. You're already doing it. Your kids are doing it. You're doing it. It comes naturally here. And I just want to thank y'all for that. All right. If you go to the next slide real quick. This is a quote by Dr. Hardwick again, and I want to read it because it really impacted me. For years, we have used the stories of disabled people in the Bible to symbolize universally acknowledged brokenness. Yes, we are all universally and spiritually broken, but God doesn't use people with disabilities to teach us this. Disabled people in our churches should not be reduced to a symbol or a system only used for teaching people about the spiritual brokenness. If you go to the next slide, I'll kind of get, so 1 Corinthians 12 talks about the body. And we, regardless of varying abilities, we all have a role. I like to look at this as it's ministry with, not ministry for. And that's not to say we don't minister to one another, but what I am saying is that it's rare that the disabled and neurodivergent community is integrated into the ministering side by side. There was something that was told to me by one of our doctors shortly after Coda was diagnosed. with autism, and it was always presume competence. It means like, he may not be able to tell you what he understands or can do, but just presume that he can, because what is there to lose? And going by that in the church, let's presume they have a place and a way to minister to us and to one another and do ministry alongside of us. And so that's kind of like what I think I want to leave you guys with this morning. Some resources are at the bottom. I'm going to share probably in the community chat. I encourage, like, if you're a parent, read books that represent people of all abilities. Representation is big, and like I said, like 50 years ago, we didn't have the amount. Like, we have the PBS shows. Like, I don't know if you've seen Carl the Collector. That is a awesome show. That has a main character who is autistic. We have tons of books that represent non-speaking individuals. Rolling people, as a contributor that I follow says about her son, like in the wheelchair, rolling people that roll. We have adult books now that are written by non-speaking autistics, voices that have never been heard, because we have the technology where they can type out, where they can type by using their eyes, or just one finger. Like, it's amazing to hear from that world. And 100 years ago, they were just kids were born, they were put in institutions. Those voices were silenced. We don't have that anymore. We can learn from the community themselves. So I encourage you to go to your library, check out some stuff. I'll post this, if you want to read from any of those. And if you have any questions going forward, like, I'm here. I'm learning along with you guys. No, it doesn't come with an instruction manual. Special parents don't get special kids. It's just regular parents. And we do the best we can, just like anybody else. Real quick, before I pray, this has been said over and over this morning. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. We can see in the scriptures numerous individuals with varying abilities and disabilities. Emmanuel, your namesake, God with us. I don't think it's a coincidence that God is with all of us. And so I want this to be a part of our DNA, our fabric within this community, to be a place of support for varying abilities. And like I said, you guys are a natural. You're the church we've been looking for. I want to pray, if that's okay. All right. Oh God, creator and engineer of all brains, thank you for a kaleidoscope of neurodiversity, that through our uniqueness, we get to know and see you better, that we ask for your guidance as a church to know how better to accommodate for others who process this space differently than we do, who may need patience and practice, who may need dimmer lighting or softer music from time to time, or fidgets to hold, a hallway to pace, or a visual aid or two, or a buddy by their side, or maybe just to know that this is a safe space for when it feels like too much. That Emmanuel, whatever the support need, and we may offer that. And may you give us the ability to slow down and see each person who walks, runs, rolls, or is carried through our doors, to say hello. I'm so glad you're here, even when a verbal response may not be available in return. May we lean into the beautiful truth that love needs no words. Thank you that our worth is not defined by our abilities or differences, but through Jesus. And thank you for this church that I get to call home. Amen.